Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the most boring video you'll probably ever see of the internet, where you just get to watch me do 10 minutes of chest supported rows and then just sitting there and waiting to do it again. I could apologize for that, but I'm going to choose not to, because part of the reasons why I'm doing this channel is to actually show you not just the highlights of training, which is what a lot of people do, but to actually show you what real training looks like. You know, and sometimes real training can get boring and monotonous, so I guess you'll just have to suffer through that. And if those videos don't do well because of that, well, oh well. I'm still gonna stick to my guns and show you that that's what real training is. Okay, so now I can actually get into what I'm doing here. So I'm doing a 10-minute EMOM of 10 chest supported rows at the start of every minute, and then resting however long or for the remainder of the minute. And really one of the reasons why I wanted to do a video on this was to show how you can do a lot of things and you can get very creative when it comes to your accessory work on how you're doing your set and rep and rest protocol. So there's a bunch of different factors that you get to play around with, and not everything has to be 3 sets of 10, 3 sets of 15 with 2 minutes break in between, so on and so forth, whatever. You can play around with different variables, and then every variable that you play around with is going to lead to a slightly different outcome. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people out there have heard of an EMOM protocol before, where maybe you're doing, I mean, I've done it, and I've done other videos on this where I've done that with my dynamic effort squats. So I'm going every minute on the minute. Maybe it takes me 10, 15 seconds to, actually do the squats, the 2 reps that I would do on squats, and then I rest, and then when the minute's up, I go again, and that keeps me on a set rest protocol, so I'm not taking too long. That leads to some fatigue buildup that I actually have to push through towards the end, and leads to a conditioning effect as well. But I also wouldn't be surprised to think that a lot of people haven't thought to use a set or an EMOM protocol for their accessory movements. However, there's no reason to not to. Now, recently I've done a bunch of videos about cluster training, where you're doing a set number of reps and then you take a certain predetermined break before you continue to do reps. It kind of allows you to handle a slightly heavier weight for more total reps than you would be able to do if you just tried to do it, straight sets, or maybe tried to do a set of 100 or something, where you would hit a bunch of reps and then you would really start to fatigue, and then the amount of reps that you could do would greatly drop off. So when I look at this EMOM protocol, I kind of put it in that cluster category. Obviously, I'm doing 10 reps and then I'm resting to the however long it takes me to get to the next minute. So it's taking me about like 15 seconds within 10 to 15 seconds in order to actually do the 10 reps, and then I've got about 45 seconds rest. I'm really about 35 because I'm getting the straps back on the dumbbells so I can actually be ready to go when the minute starts. So what this is going to allow me to do is to accumulate a high workload. Workload is sets times reps times weight. So it's essentially volume, which is sets times reps, and then volume times weight. And workload is a really good indication of, obviously, the amount of work that you do overall in the workout. It's a good indication of hypertrophy, because, we're kind of trying to, when it comes to hypertrophy, we're trying to accumulate mechanical tension over time. So like the total amount of mechanical work that we've done in a workout, and to progress that over time. So workload is a good way to actually measure that. It's also a really good indicator of like strength endurance. If you continue to push more and more workload over the course of weeks to weeks, you're getting in better, quote unquote, getting in better shape, or having your increasing your body's ability to handle work and handle volume. And it's another way to actually measure progressive overload. Progressive overload is just the idea that we need to continue, or we want to try to continue to add stimulus from week to week in order to keep our progress moving forward. Now, we can do that by always just adding more weight, but we can do that in a lot of other ways too. We can add volume, we can increase workload, right? And that can be done by a bunch of different ways. So I can increase do more weight for more reps. If I can do less reps, but if I do more weight, I might be able to actually do more overall work still, depending on how how the math ends up. Yes, I know you actually might need to do some math to figure out if you're progressing or not. Holy crap, I know. I can't believe I just said that either, but I guess you'll have to get over it. So anyway, to kind of summarize the points that I want to make with this is that the cluster sets allow you to get more work done with a moderately heavy to heavy weight. That can lead to strength endurance, hypertrophy, increased work capacity through an increased workload. Now, the next thing that I want to mention is how these reps are actually being performed. So as you can see at the start of the EMOM, I'm getting full range of motion because there's not a lot of fatigue holding me back. But as that fatigue builds up, it's going to be tougher and tougher for me to actually get a full squeeze at the top. Now, pretty much all rowing movements fall into the category of shortened position overloaded movements, meaning that the hardest part of the movement, or the tough where it's going to be the toughest to produce force, is in the shortened or contracted position. So as I pull those dumbbells close to me, then the movement is going to get tougher and tougher. So as I fatigue, that range of motion might start to get cut short, even though I am trying to bring those dumbbells up as high as I can and still squeezing as hard as I can at the top. Now, I'm not really too worried about this because just because that top range of motion is fatigued, that doesn't mean that I'm not getting anything out of the movement anymore just because I'm not getting a full range of motion for those last couple reps each set. There is a lot of things going around about how the stretched position is where the most hypertrophy is actually stimulated, because that's actually developing a lot of mechanical tension, right? If your muscles have to overcome an external weight while they're in a stretched position, that's going to lead to a lot of mechanical tension, and that tends to be a big growth stimulus. So that's all fine and dandy. Again, I don't think that everything has to be lengthened, overloaded because of that, but whatever. What that does justify here, though, is as I start to fatigue, that the point that I'm going to be able to bring the dumbbells up to is going to be less and less. However, I'm still going to be able to generate tension in a farther or more and more of a stretched position, because really when I'm at the bottom of the movement, there's not a lot of tension just because of the nature of the physics of the movement. But as I fatigue, that tough point or that challenged point starts to get more and more into the stretched position. So that's basically a long-winded way of saying that chest-supported rows or a lot of rowing movements, you can still get a lot out of and get a lot of benefit from them, even if they're not full range of motion. If you're hitting that fatigue point and you're still contracting really, really hard, you can still feel the muscles squeezing really, really hard. Even if I'm not getting that full range of motion, you're still getting a lot of benefit from it by working in that lengthened and stretched position, right? This just goes to show that there's not always universal rules for lifting, like, oh, should you be doing full range of motion training? Well, some exercises you need a lot of range of motion for and full range of motion for. Sometimes it depends on what you're going for. Sometimes it depends on the movement, depends on the set and rep protocol. So you need to really understand what you're doing, why you're doing it. And as another takeaway, rows are a fine movement that if you're hitting the fatigue point and you're not getting a full range of motion because of that fatigue, it's okay to keep going and bang out a couple lengthened partials. You're still getting a lot of benefit from it. So to summarize a couple points from this video and hopefully summarize a couple takeaways, that feel free to get creative with your set and rep protocols. It's going to change up things. It's going to keep it kind of fresh and provide new challenges for you in order to develop your strength in a lot of different ways. And it doesn't just have to be on the main movements. It can be on accessories also. And lastly, full range of motion training is great, and I think all of your joints should be taken through a full range of motion. However, that doesn't mean that every exercise needs to be full range of motion all the time. You need to understand why you're doing it and what you're getting out of it. Well, go have fun, do your rows.